Good morning. So another day, keeping up with my YouTube routine. Got up this morning and looked at a little bit of news. Did a little research based on some personal notes that I gave myself, sort of a side task to dive a little deeper into Mr. Ben-Gurion, who was Israel's first prime minister. And so what I'd like to focus on briefly, because this is going to be a short video, more of like a early morning postscript or routine suggestion. Investigate your angst. Like, if something triggers you and you fall into like a deep depression, or you feel hemmed in, helpless, you want to numb the cortisone level that's flowing through you, consider, rather than putting it at bay and not educating it or explaining to it, which in a sense it's a part of yourself that is void of information and connections, and it's just raw emotion that's been triggered by something from the outside that resembles a connection to that something with a similar story inside. And this could be personal. It could be possibly even ancestral. Like, it's hard, it's speculative. I mean, as far as what people concoct in their personal mythology, some of it is legitimate and some of it is speculative. I mean, it's the imagination can do all kinds of extraordinary things that cannot be disputed. And that on a useful level, that's not useful. I think it's, at least in the beginning stages of educating your angst, it's good to nail things down and have an anchor point that's based on facts and like universally known information and procedural ways of going about getting that information and verifying it and connecting dots. And so I would encourage people to ask the internet questions that might surface from your sense of injustice in the world. Make connections with other people, not necessarily through the internet, because that can be a little sketchy, unless you go into different forums and individuals who have various social network platforms on Substack. And Twitter's a little sketchy too, but it seems like although it's owned by a very dubious character, to say the least. I won't get distracted and go into that category of critique. But even in the chaos, you can find a few things that are standing still. And you can do that on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you just have to be discerning and verify people one good question at a time, and then do some background checks on them. Make sure they're a real person, see if they have a YouTube channel, see if they're on Substack, etc. So the legacy of sociopathy goes back thousands and thousands of years in the patriarchal kingdom of kings and emperors and shahs and presidents and dictators, bishops, popes, preachers, ministers, deacons, gurus, cult leaders, police chiefs, prison wardens, rehabilitation centers, Wall Street. I mean, the list goes on and on. The sociopathy is like the bread and butter of the patriarchy. It's a mental illness, and I know that. I mentioned mental illness, and it can get a little banal, maybe, like as if it's sort of a scapegoat or a place to put something and call it that, and then move on as if there's been a solution, but there hasn't been. I'm just saying that mental illness is real, and it's a condition, and it is not being addressed, just plain and simple, on a societal level. It never has been the priority of society, a priority of government. And in my mind, curiously enough, eventually it will need to be the number one priority above oil, money, healthcare, education. It is the foundation of human existence, the mental world. And the buck stops there. There is nothing below the mental world outside of ego disillusion and transcending the human portrait that you're encased in. And that's not altogether, that process and that event is not really practical. It's not something that you're going to be able to maintain day to day, 24/7, and get anything done. It's not the world that we belong to, statistically. I mean, so that's not what I'm talking about as far as something being below the mental world. I mean, in this world, in the third dimension, the mental world is where everything surfaces from. And as a side note, going beneath it into some sort of verification that you're more than your assigned platform. That whole thing could be used as a spiritual bypass, like a coping mechanism or a kind of a avoidance, a distraction, a huge distraction. And so just be careful not to make it an idol of contrast, as if all the rest of your fellow brothers and sisters are fodder or below you. I mean, it's very dangerous information and experience, actually, because the ego can get a hold of it and just completely trip balls. And sometimes that's necessary for the person to get humbled and ostracized by their own vanity and hyperinflation. And maybe it's necessary, maybe it isn't. Feel it out. If you think it could never happen to you, then it probably will. That's the first indication of that it hasn't happened to you and you have no idea what you're talking about, which then invites it to happen so that you will later know what you're talking about. It's funny how things like that happen. So here's what I did this morning, and I want to share with you. I went through and I Googled genocidal statements by Ben-Gurion. And I mean, I've known about his extreme psychotic condition and high-functioning sociopathic bureaucrat, aristocrat, ethno-supremacist, just a very dangerous being in human form. The stuff that quiet nightmares are made of. The most dangerous sociopaths and psychopaths are the ones who smile and have a plan, 15 steps ahead of you. So whatever they are in the moment is feeding what they will be 2 weeks ahead. Like they're already there. They're just, it's as if they've gone back in a time machine 14 days to meet you, to then 2 weeks later destroy you. It's a very peculiar situation. So here's what I found. David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel and a key architect of the state, made several statements during 1930s and 1940s regarding the removal of the Palestinian population, which are frequently cited by historians and critics as evidence of intent to commit ethnic cleansing or genocide. Statements and rhetoric. Now, this is coming from something called AI Overview. But don't don't denounce it as fake news or whatever you want to call it because it has this AI engine behind it. Verify this stuff. These quotes are from, curiously enough, the Zionism Observer, whatever that means. They're observing Zionism historically. Some of these organizations are based in Israel, which I find to be sort of dissonant. Like, okay, you're against Zionism, but you also are paying into Zionism and living off of the genocide, apartheid profits, and in a sense, supporting it. And that goes for Haaretz too. So back to this. He made several statements during the 1930s and 1940s regarding the removal of the Palestinian population. Statements and rhetoric. 1937, almost 10 years before the Nakba, in a letter to his son, Ben-Gurion wrote, "The Arabs will have to go, but one needs an opportune moment for making it happen, such as a war." So this whole idea of useful enemy is a pathological philosophy of Zionism and Israel in specifically. They held on to Hamas, built it up, funded them, helped fund them, because they need an enemy to scapegoat, to propagandize as them being the victim of said enemy. It's a kind of military strategy birthed in the dungeons of British intelligence, MI6, CIA, all sorts of manipulative Borg stuff going on in their basements. Support for transfer. He supported the concept of transfer, the removal of Arabs from the territory proposed for the Jewish state. Now remember, in the Balfour Papers, it is specifically worded the way things are worded in legal talk, is that the Jewish people, the Ashkenazi Jews, ultimately from Europe, that are going to be exported to Israel, or what was then Palestine and is still Palestine, they ultimately, the statement was a home and not a state. So there was some disconnects, I think, maybe not necessarily with the inner circle of the British that were involved, but more their shareholders and people who are on the periphery. Because when it really hit the fan, Britain pulled out and dumped Israel in the lap of a new United Nations. So there's that. Focus on strength. He emphasized cruel and strong reactions, stating in one quote that if we know the family, we must strike mercilessly, women and children included. (1948) war goal. During the 1948 war, which was not a war, even AI is victim to propaganda. It was ethnic cleansing. There was no standing military to resist the Zionists that were invading Palestine. It was ultimately asymmetrical guerrilla warfare against unarmed, untrained civilians. So early habits of what they did and had been doing up to October 7th in Gaza, including experimenting on Palestinians with new weaponry and ways of killing people, using them as human targets to take notes and make adjustments. During the 1948 war, he noted the opportunity to reduce the number of Palestinians living under Israeli rule, describing them as human dust in the context of wanting to build a nation and referring to Palestinian villages as needing to be wiped out in certain contexts. Contextual nuance. So here we go. While some quotes demonstrate a clear intent to remove the indigenous Arab population to establish a Jewish majority, other documentation shows him arguing in 1918 that had Zionism desired to evict the inhabitants of Palestine, it would have been a dangerous utopia. As late as December 1947, he told his Labor Party that in our state there will be non-Jews as well, and all of them will be equal citizens. Now, here's the doublespeak, and this idea of nuance is it's like a breaker in a subpanel, an electrical subpanel, where if there's a faulty appliance and it short circuits, it will throw the breaker. The breaker will switch off as a safety mechanism so that hopefully things won't catch on fire. It basically takes the amperage away from that line that the appliance is connected to. No more, doesn't give it any more fuel. Can still burn your house down if the appliance happens to throw a spark and do its thing, but ultimately it's a fail-safe. And it doesn't fix the appliance. It just is rolling the dice to hopefully save your house. Well, this is what contextual nuance is. It's an attempt to befuddle and bring like a kind of doubt or delegitimation of, I think I just made up a new word, but I'll keep going. It delegitimizes the facts, and the facts are politicians say one thing to one group contextually in one situation and then another thing in another group. They're always playing two sides, sometimes three, in order to placate and buy time. So obviously, in my mind, because also the 3 years of research that I've been doing, and I understand a lot more about the mindset of politicians and sociopaths and genocide enablers, particularly thanks to Anthony Blinken. Thanks, Anthony. You've been a great help to me in refining my psychopath meter. You and Vedant Patel, among others that I won't go into right now. I'll save that for a genocide enabler video and name you all that I know and I have information to share about. So would have been a dangerous utopia. It is a dangerous utopia. It began as a dangerous utopian nihilist invasion and genocide. Utopia, and that'll be for another conversation as well, is always a religious, like a bastardization of heaven on earth, and this whole idea of divine providence or divine destiny, and it justified the genocide of the indigenous that were here before America was formed. The Spanish did it to the French, Britain, of course. And it's just a way to cloak human inhumanness in unproven, unhinged religious destiny that if you're a faithful person, and your morals and principles are that of a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, yeah, you're gonna trust that and move on through your day and do something that you need to do. You're not going to go down and debate the prime minister or try to form a coup. It's only until after it becomes apparent that it's not what it is that people start to mature and get educated by the event itself, like Vietnam, for instance. So there's no proof that Ben-Gurion was some sort of humanitarian. And it's not even a suspicion of mine that he said these things to downplay what he was actually doing in the face of whoever he needed to hear those things. It was a kind of a bait and switch, or a way of shifting attention, getting the attention off of him. Now everything's going to be fine. Do as I do, do as I say, not as I do. So just keep that in mind when nuance steps into the room and tries to spin things in some quasi-philosophical, no, it's not as bad as you think it is. Oh, that video is AI. Never mind the witnesses that are in the waiting room who can confirm that it's real. They're Hamas. Oh, and never mind all the journalists that also have the same video from different angles, and the injured in the hospital that are giving statements to their relatives that confirm the video, and all the journalists from different countries, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds that have no biases against or for Israel, who are giving witness statements to the human rights organizations investigating. All that is fake news. We have the right to defend ourselves, right? And sure, defend yourself against the truth. So it's infuriating, really, that there is no cross-examination of Donald Trump when he is spouting complete lies and exaggerations. There's no law that news agencies like Fox and CNN and ABC, NBC, the New York Times, the Guardian, the Atlantic, all have fallen victim. And although I'm not exactly sure about the Guardian, but the Atlantic for sure, that there's no repercussions to lying these days. There's no societal outcry and demand for integrity and dignity and self-respect and real information. The news these days is pretty cucked to a fantastical story that clogs the consciences of millions of people. It's hard to know what to feel when you believe a lie and don't fact check. And that's hard work for some people. I mean, in my opinion, you shouldn't have to fact check the news. There shouldn't be platforms where you can filter the news and find out if it's true or not. It's a kind of a disgrace, really, but here we are. Maybe it's a pressure to make people more independent and to weather the storm as it approaches, unbeknown to a lot of people. And a storm is coming. I mean, not to get Nostradamus on you or anything, but huge paradigm shifts are happening now in the Middle East, and the Anglo-Saxon hold on the Middle East is being violently severed. So just stay tuned for peculiar events. And the last thing, and that contextual nuance, little bit, it came from Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, strategically propagandized nuance. Relevance today. These historical statements are often cited in contemporary discussions, including in cases before the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to argue that modern Israel's actions in Gaza are part of a long-standing premeditated policy. And for sure, it's Israel has been an ethnic cleansing apartheid state since its inception. And all you really, if you really want to see, like, for instance, if Gaza is too much for you and you think, oh, well, Gaza is what it is because Hamas did what they did, is a very simplistic way of looking at it and completely false. But nonetheless, people make this assumption and they move on their day and say, well, there's not really any proof of Israel antagonizing and victimizing and torturing and instigating these blowback vengeance attacks. Oh, yes, there is. So if you want to see it in real time, investigate the West Bank, because West Bank is slow drip genocide. The West Bank has been, it is being occupied by 700,000 plus settler terrorists that under international law, it is illegal for them to live there. And Netanyahu lives there too. And the West Bank, if you Google images of West Bank condominiums, you will see multi-million-dollar condominiums that are built on ancient hillsides that look like they should be in in Malibu or Tampa. And they're out in the middle of a wasteland, basically, on these dry, dusty hillsides where olive groves used to be, ought to be, will be someday. And it's like a Europeanized Mediterranean quasi vibe, and kind of reminds me of like a small town version of Diet Dubai. And so it's, I could go into a long discussion about the West Bank, but I'll leave it to you. Just look into the West Bank, the history of the West Bank, and it's still happening. I mean, it's never stopped since '48 onward. It has been an ongoing ethnic cleansing, murderous campaign of occupation, land seizure, exiling refugees to, well, not refugees. They will be refugees after they're exiled, but ultimately exiling legal landowners off their property into neighboring countries and Gaza. So that whole history is available through YouTube. You can look it up. The history of Zionist aggression in the West Bank. There's tons of documentaries and reporting on this. So that's pretty much it for the morning. 9:55 here, and wishing you a good day ahead, and thank you for supporting my channel.